Hey guys, welcome to another Homelab Series video today. So before we get started with the actual video, I wanted to share a few fun things that I have bought. So you can see that I'm not running my HyperX Quadcast mic today, and I'm opting for the DJI mic. It was a recommendation from one of my friends to get because I got one of the Sony cameras. So trying to upgrade my stream capacity plus capabilities to like do vlogging or other videos that I haven't made yet, but have been very interested in kind of doing. So hopefully my next trip I'll bring it and vlog a little bit. I don't know how that's gonna go, but we'll see how it works. So and this is not a sponsorship by DJI at all, this video. This is just me kind of sharing my cool stuff. But DJI, if you do want to sponsor me, I would highly love getting one of your drones or one of some camera accessories to just be able to add to my camera and make it look like a cool setup with my camera and do fun things. So if that's an interest, feel free to reach out at my business email. But anywho, so far from the few tests that I've done with it, I've loved the audio quality that it's provided. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video and it doesn't sound like I'm screaming into the mic because I'm not screaming. But if I am, that would be interesting. So anywho, to get started with this video, we're going to be talking about backups. And really, I haven't really talked much about backups. I've considered making a ton of videos about backups and things like that because, at the end of the day, backups are very important. I've definitely lost things because I've had it on a hard drive that lasted like 10 years but then died, and I was like, oh, I didn't really back up anything, right? And that's kind of, for the most part, I would say most people probably live where most of their stuff lives on, a certain device, and whenever they get a new device, they transfer it to the new device, and that's pretty much the single point of failure for, file storage or anything else. So to kind of make it a little bit more secure and robust, I'm going to be showing you guys Restic. This was actually another recommendation from one of my friends that currently use it, so I figured I'd check it out. So Restic is essentially, and I'm using it in Linux. I think it supports other operating systems, but we'll be mainly focusing this on Linux to kind of show you guys. But Restic will essentially back up all the files, and it will compress the files, encrypt them, and you have to essentially enter a password so that you essentially can decrypt all the content and how it all combines together, which is really neat because for example, if you're using storage in the cloud for like one of your backups, right, you're going to be paying for how much storage you put in. So being able to compress and dedupe things will be amazing, as well as because you're putting it in a other provider, having the files also encrypted is also nice because, say for example, like some of my backups are just rsyncs from one server to another server, right? If someone ever hacks the backup server or whatnot, all the files are just plain text. It's just there. There's no encryption. It's, hey, here's the file. You can cat it. You can read it and do whatever. So there's really nothing that's making it anything more secure. So Restic is nice with that, so that you can't just go and cat a file because it's not a file structure that you can just go see the files in, which is amazing. So that helps too, especially when you're storing more important like tax information and things like that in like Google Drive or something. So if Google Drive ever got hacked or something, or your password ever got leaked or something, if they get it, they can't really do much with it unless they have your password to decrypt it. So we can get started, and I will show you how you can install and use Restic on a Linux box. So let's get started. So first off, I just want to show you kind of the documentation. So if you look up Restic Backup, you can see they have this whole site. You got backups done right, everything else. My DNS apparently just doesn't want to work today. I don't know why. That's actually really interesting. There we go. Homelab stuff, guys. Maybe I should get 2 DNS servers apparently. But you can kind of see, so it supports Linux, BSD, Mac, and Windows. There are many different types of storage that you can essentially put. So I think the interesting thing is, especially if you use like S3 object-oriented storage, you can put it in S3, MinIO, Backblaze, and things like that, which is amazing because their storage, is more object-oriented and you can just store it up there. Effective, secure, You can verify, and it's open source. So they got their demo, they got all the stuff, but we'll go with their manual here. So there's a quick start guide, installation packages, preparing repositories so you can do local SFTP, Amazon S3, MinIO, S3, Backblaze, things like that. So pretty much everything that I will share here is something that you can find on this documentation for the most part. So what we'll do is essentially log into one of our Linux boxes that we want to back up. So one of my latest videos, I made a video about enclosed. So we'll log into that, and I have some files that I want to back up. But we'll first get started with installing it. So luckily, if you want to install it, it's actually part of the base Yum repository. So you don't have to add any new repositories to this. If you're using a Red Hat based distro, you can just do a Yum install Restic, and it will essentially install. So that is all good and dandy. So essentially what you need to do here, from here, you need to initialize the repo. So we're going to just do it local, but if you were to do like S3 or something else, you can follow the documentation, and it's very similar. You might have a few more steps, but we'll do restic-r for the repository that this will be located in, and we'll just make it like that, and we'll do init. So init will essentially initialize it. This will be the password that you would use for your repository. And it will essentially create the repository, which you can see here. So like cd that, and you can see that it creates all this config, data, index, keys, logs, and snapshots. So to create your first backup, I have a directory called files to be backed up. So what we'll do is type in restic-r for the repository of where it is. But I gotta type it in right. And then we will do the backup. So backup is the essentially parameter that we'll use, and we'll back up the files to be backed up. So we'll run that. It'll prompt for the repository password again, so you have to enter the password to essentially do it. But you can see here that it will open up. It didn't find any snapshots existing currently, and it will start backing up files. So it gives you actually a pretty good, decent GUI. Like you can kind of see how it goes, where the files are, how much time has elapsed, the percentage. So like I'm already 20% done out of the 22 files. The total number of files with the total number of gigs. So in this case, there's 17 gigs. And we'll see if it compresses anything. These are just all text files. I don't know if it's going to do much of compressing, but we're about 40% of the way there. But you can see that there are no errors, and they also give you an ETA of how long it will take. But the nice part about using Restic is the first snapshot will be obviously your full one, and then subsequent ones will be incremental. So it won't try to resync these files unless there's a change or something's different about them. So if they're the same, it will be like, oh, it's the same. I don't need to try to add this to the backup, which is great, because imagine you have like a 20 terabyte drive or something, and you're trying to back up everything, and it re-backups everything instead of goes, oh hey, this file exists, skip, right? So you can see how kind of annoying that would be, especially if you're using like certain things that are just, hey, I'm just SCPing and not checking for if files exist. So I am getting very close to almost being done here. So we're at 97, 98, 99. It's like watching paint dry, So you can see here that in here we got files. So we see that there are 101 new files, 102 new directories that were added to the snapshot. And essentially it compressed it down to 176 megs. Out of the 17 gigs that I processed. Now, most of these files were like duplicates of each other, so like there's a lot of deduping happening here. So don't like think, oh man, it's gonna compress like amazingly with like video files and stuff like that, or like random. This is all the files were the same. So but you can see it does do the compression, which is what I wanted to show you guys. So from here, you can see you can type in Restic SVR, and snapshots, and we can use the snapshots command. So we can see that this snapshot was created. So you can see, hey, this is the snapshot ID or hash, the time it was snapped, and you can see the paths here. So we could run the command again, where we back up the repo or back up the directory, and you can see it will essentially just say, hey, there weren't any unmodified, nothing changed, we didn't add any bytes to it, and it was pretty instant, right? So if we were to do the snapshots command again, we can see that it did make essentially, incrementally it said, hey, we made another snapshot, but really it didn't do anything, right? So if we were to say, for example, change directory files to be backed up by new file.txt, and we put in random stuff, right? And we do another backup, snapshot backup. We can see, oh, sorry, that was the snapshot, not the actual backup. Here we go, backup. We can see that it identified the one change to it, and it added 35.7 kilobytes to it, essentially. So it essentially just does the increments. Now, say for example, you have these backups, right? The hard part is, hey, how do I restore from the backup? So there's a few things that we can do. So what we'll want to do is, say for example, I want to do a full restore. I want everything in like the latest backup. So we can make a directory called like temp restore work, and this is where we will put the expanded backup. Just note the expanded backup will be like the 17 gigs, so you should make sure you have enough space to accommodate that. So I can tell you I'm only using 23 of the 136 in here, so I am good. Then we'll do Restic and specify the repo. We'll do the restore command, and then you can restore and specify a snapshot ID. So when you list the snapshot, you can put in the snapshot ID. In this case, they also have a like symlink to latest, so that you don't have to, you can just grab the latest, and then a target for where you want to restore the files. So we'll run that. And essentially, right now, it will restore the latest snapshot, and that was backed up here, to temp restore work. So eventually, this will finish. We can open another terminal, actually. Oh, it did actually finish. It finished pretty quickly, actually. That was a lot quicker than I was expecting. So we can go temp restore work, and we can see that essentially it creates the whole thing. So we created a new file, those files in each one of these directories. So if I were to do type file, you can see that all these files are located. So essentially you can restore by creating this, putting it, copying the file back to its original location. Now, say for example, you're like, oh hey, I only want to really restore one file. So what I'll want to do here, let's delete the restore work real quick. And we'll remake this. Okay, there. So say for example, you want to just grab one file, right? So to look in a Restic repository, we can use restic-r for the repository, Restic repo, ls, and then latest, you can use snapshot ID as well. I'm just using latest to suffice for grabbing the latest ID. And then it'll list you all the things that you can, that's in it essentially. So say for example, I want, this file to be backed up, right? So we'll do the same thing where we will do the restic command -r, the repository. We'll do restore, and then you specify restore from which snapshot ID, so latest, where you want to restore it to, so we'll restore it to temp work, and we can use the include parameter and paste the essentially file that you want to include and use. They also have the exclude parameter, so if you want to grab everything except certain files, you can too. So in this case, we'll run this, and it will restore just that one file. So if we change to restore work, we can see files to be backed up. We can see that 0 is there and the file 0 is there. So that is essentially how you can use Restic, or Restic. It might sound like I'm saying rustic, but it's Restic. My pronunciation is a little rough sometimes. But essentially it is there. So you can restore everything, restore individual files, and you essentially just have a nice backup that is encrypted, and you can do whatever you want and store it in various places. So if we were to just like look in this repository, you can see that we have these and like data and whatnot. So you can see that it's actually like, formatted differently, so you don't just see the files. There's actually encryption and it breaks it up. So that is pretty nice, especially when you're storing it in the cloud and you want your data to be slightly more secure. But that's kind of how you can get started with Restic. It's been a lot of fun so far. There's a few other things that you can do. Obviously, you can set this up with like a cron, automate it so that it just runs on a schedule, and other things. But this is how you can kind of get started with, if you're not really wanting to just rsync, files over to another server and you want a little bit more, security and compression. This is what I would recommend. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.